Hey guys, we're going to do a water block install on a new graphics card. We'll be installing the Alphacool water block on a 50 series, a 5080 to be exact, and check this thing out, see how it is. I'm going to move the card over for a second, and let's take a look at the water block itself. Let's see what we get in the box. So you get some actual printed out instructions, which is nice. A lot of them have stuff online, which if you look up, here is the block. It's relatively heavy. It's a little lighter than an EK block, I would say, but which I have more familiarity with. I'm not saying anything bad about these. Alphacool, I hope this thing works rather well. Packaging seems okay. And that is the block itself. You got your typical RGB cable out. Yeah, I mean, it looks nice. I hope it comes with plugs for these. I'm sure it does in the little goodie box. So you got your accessory box, which I'm assuming is going to have thermal pads and some other accessories in. Get this stuff out of the way. Yeah, it's not hateful looking. Doesn't seem like a fingerprint magnet too bad on the top side. It's just like a billet cut looking piece. But before I get into this, I'm gonna tear down the GPU. I am gonna take a quick look inside of the accessory box. So you get two plugs and an Alphacool tool, and they have like a proprietary, looks like a Fantech style RGB 3-pin extension. Looks like they give you a little screwdriver and a paste spreader, and there's some hardware in there, which is kind of scary that hardware is just mixed in there, but that's okay. And it looks like it's all pre-cut thermal pads, which I don't mind. That's okay. And some pads which look a little jacked up, but it's all right. For the back plate, looks like they're all 3mm. And this is for the cooler. And then you get a not stainless steel bracket, but it's it's fine. It's a 2-slot setup, not hateful. So there's all the stuff with that. The one thing I did, like I said, appreciate. I'm gonna set this stuff to the side. Sorry about all the noise. I'm testing out my lavalier, my DJI microphones, and if I don't like how it sounds, then I'll just do a voiceover. But they do have nice color instructions, and everything is broken down to like what your parts are, your quantities. It also has like a digital, you can just scan, hit the QR code, check it out there. But looks pretty nice how they have this laid out, instruction-wise, like very clear cut. It seems pretty simple, and to the point. Also important, you got your clearly marked in and out ports. So, you want this to be your in and that to be your outflow, which is fine for me. I'm going to throw this in a loop. And that's common to this too. So like I know EKs were set up the same way, where this port was in and this one was out, which is fine. And I don't know if that I haven't had a lot of experience with these blocks. I did a couple 4090s. I didn't have any. I had one that ran hot, and I think they did update something and fix it. But I mean, it's a nice little block, and it's definitely a way smaller footprint than this card. So not hateful. I'm going to tear this card down really quick and get that over with. Well, the card teardown's pretty simple, not a lot to it. But once you get into the actual water block, there's some stuff going on that was a little curious, like these standoffs here. It doesn't necessarily show to remove all the standoffs, like the ones around the actual GPU die, but it doesn't show it on any of the pictures in the instructions. So it could be a little more clear, because for somebody that's just starting out, they might not know. Now, you obviously know when you put it back together and you have massive temperature issues, but overall, you know, that's just a small oversight in the instructions. Maybe they've updated it online, I don't know. Thermal pads, pretty easy application on the actual water block itself, around the die. They were not terrible to deal with. They're all pre-cut, which is pleasant, so you don't have to cut them out yourself. I did, wipe down the block with some alcohol, make sure it's all clean. So that part was pretty easy. Just don't forget to peel off your, the adhesive backing, like the stickers, so you have good temps. And but yeah, I had a pet peeve about those spacers, because someone might not know and it just doesn't show them, and it should say remove whatever the count is of those spacers. So that's something maybe to update in the online instructions, or maybe have a little bulletin put out just to be a little more clear, because like I said, a beginner might not know on his first custom loop and have some serious problems, lead to RMAs and some other things. Anyway, so you want to test fit the PCB and make sure all your holes line up. Of course they did. I was looking at contact too on the pads and making sure everything looked okay. The card didn't seem to bow and looked okay, so that's a good sign so far. I did have some issues with these thermal pads for the top plate here. They just weren't really sticky. Not sticky enough to really go onto the PCB and stay there. So I wish those pads were a little more adhesive and would stay to the board a little better. And I also questioned like where the placement, like what they were doing there, because I see what's going on. It's just like they don't have any pads like on any of the caps or items that some higher end water blocks may have. Now it might not be an issue on this 5080, and I'm sure the temps will be okay, but it's just something that crossed my mind. And as you can see here in the video, which I sped this up because this video would have been a 40-minute video if not, the pads just did not want to stay to the PCB. I also had some issues with the IO plate, which we'll look at in a moment. Overall, I mean, it's a pretty simple application. This is probably one of the easier cards that you'll do as far as, just assembly. The back plate, I was assuming that they were captive screws and I was hunting for hardware here, but they're not actually. They will pop out, so you got to be careful. They are all the same length, so I finally found them. It comes with 2 spares, which is nice, and there is a screw that is shorter it's a 5mm long screw for the IO, and the issue I had with that is that I think the nut that went onto that screw had some rough threads, and it made it really, really difficult to get on. So while I'm fighting with this, the screw kept falling off, the thermal pads were falling off, and I did get it sorted. It wasn't a big, gigantic deal, but it was frustrating to say the least, because like I said, if the pads were stickier, I probably wouldn't have got upset with it. Is what it is, but yeah, maybe some better pads or some more, I don't know, a little more sticky pads. That's just my preference, but that's one thing I would say we could work on. So here I'm basically ranting about the IO plate and how the OEM works so much better, that had it was basically threaded and attached to it. So they could have done that at least on the one side and made the other side flat. It would have made it a lot simpler for installation, but it is what it is. The top plate, like I said, they're not captive, so be careful. And I usually line up all the holes, so I pull out the 4 for the main GPU die, make sure I get those threaded first, and then move on to the outer ones. Now, you don't want to go crazy on these. I do use an electric screwdriver, but it's extremely low torque. So I'll just get them all started, a couple threads, and move around and then go back to the center and check them. You know, I wish there was a way to like kind of implement torque. I do have something that will torque in very, very low Newton meters, but you know, usually tight is okay with these. Shouldn't have any problem. And you want to make sure that, you know, you don't see any flex or anything in the PCB. Here I'm actually checking those with a 0.06 Newton meter driver, and I wasn't going all the way that tight. I was just, you know, making sure they felt snug. And then the plugs, they have odd O-rings that are kind of like a square rubber-ish O-ring. And the tool doesn't work on the one side that Alphacool provides because it's too deep. So you kind of have to just use a regular screwdriver of some sort. So that was a little bit annoying, but you know, the tool just didn't work. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward, pretty basic block, but also looks good. I mean, it's attractive and it's all finished up. So cleaned it off and I'm gonna install it in the system. Smaller footprint. There you go, 5080 water block installed. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Take care.